Welcome to Rage Against the Mainstream, your full spectrum source for all things music, insight, and opinion. Today's date is November 8th, 2021. My name is Bill, and I'm joined here with Michael.
Hello, everybody.
So,
did you remember to set your clocks back?
Yeah, I love the whole falling back an hour. Yeah, spring forward, fall back, yeah.
Get an extra hour sleep.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Well, you have a dog, I have a dog. It doesn't matter to them. No. You know, Kevin still has me awake at 5 in the morning. It's 5 in the morning to him, regardless if my clock says 4. So, have you encountered anything new or interesting in the past week?
Yeah, so I was looking at up and coming, when we start talking about music history, we're talking about Bono, and as you all know, Bono is very politically active. And he actually, which is unusual, became friends with President George Bush.
Really?
The second one.
Yeah.
The second Bush. At first, you would think he would be anti-establishment. But then he became, he met with several politicians, and he even visited the White House. And actually Bush, then he signed legislation for AIDS relief, for an AIDS relief program. And it was credited with saving 17 million lives over the life of the program. And he said that Bono was the initiative for this, and it never would have made it out of Congress had he not.
Oh, wow.
Been engaged in this AIDS relief program. So Bono, he wasn't, even though being politically active, he was still, I don't want to say cross the aisle to the establishment to get things done. That other musicians are so anti-establishment, they wouldn't even think of it.
Well, it's just so funny because that's what they had started out with, was being anti-establishment.
Yeah.
They were just another, punk band.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy, though.
Yeah, so, and he's done so much work like that, even with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, all those things. And he's really such a humanitarian that he's not afraid to go against public opinion to get things done.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, too. After you, throw your album on people's phones, what's the word I'm looking for here? Unironically, you just give it to them. And, not even to be funny, just to be serious. I guess at that point, you don't really, nothing else really bothers you anymore.
No. So
that is cool, though.
Yeah.
For as many artists that were involved with the whole AIDS thing, it's crazy that he was the one that did the most to actually make that progress. It's just wild. I never knew that.
And actually going to the White House.
Yeah.
And sitting down and talking to the president and getting something done.
That's crazy.
Face to face. So, hey, he got it done.
Yeah, that's just wild.
How about you?
Well, recently, Bad Wolves have released their album, Dear Monsters. This is the new album that does not feature Tommy Vext anymore, because he went total right wing, and everyone's his enemy now and whatever. And not gonna lie, I listened to it and it does have a couple good tracks on it, but it's nothing like that first album, Disobey, that came out. Like, that album like grabbed me, and it was just like, this is something that's going to be like cool. And then the second album came out, and then this one came out. I'm not going to say it's not good, but I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. It kind of sucks because I was dick riding these guys really hard for a while. But yeah, it's definitely interesting.
So he left the band.
Yes. Tom, well, there was like a dispute on social media. Of course, everything gets brought out to social media like it's a boxing ring now.
Yeah.
And I don't really know the exact story, but I'm pretty sure it was due to his political beliefs, and he was like speaking on behalf of the band. And they were just kind of like, we're not down with this shit. Like, as anyone else would as a public figure in something like that. Like, we don't want to take a stand because we're not going to isolate anybody.
Right.
It's one of the few times that I feel like someone should really take a page out of like Dave Grohl's book. Like, this dude sells out like the O2 Arena in London. He doesn't take a political stance.
No.
Or he does, but it's not like, it's not QAnon.
Yeah.
But that's another discussion.
On this day in music history.
On this day in music history, November 8th, 1986, at the Country Club in Los Angeles, California, Metallica played their first show with bassist Jason Newsted, the replacement for Cliff Burton, who was killed in a tour bus accident back in September. This was an extremely pivotal point in Metallica's trajectory to being one of the biggest metal bands in the world, or one of the biggest bands in the world. At this point in time, they were hazing the absolute shit out of Jason Newsted. And in my opinion, with no disrespect to Cliff Burton or anyone else that was involved with that band, I think Jason was he was the perfect bassist for the band, or for the job. And you listen to like the later albums, and even though there's no bass really on And Justice for All, there's a edited version on YouTube that is called like And Justice for Jason. And to hear that album with the actual bass tracks on it turned up, you can see what that dude was capable of doing in that band. But yeah, that's crazy. I mean, they were in the middle of the tour for Master of Puppets, so this was a very, very, very important point in their career. But wow, I think it's kind of funny how they just have this like in the annals. Like, yeah, this is when Jason Newsted plays his first show.
And sometimes you find there when something happens to a band, whether it's tragic or not, and they're looking for a new member, sometimes they find them in the most unusual places.
Yeah.
I know with Leonard Skinner was looking for a keyboard player, and they were trying all these different people, and the guy on the road crew played the piano. A couple licks, like, oh, you're in the band.
Yeah, he was already like kind of like in the band, but now he was.
Yeah, Billy Powell. Billy Powell was all of a sudden, and he's a great piano player. I was like, okay, he was there the whole time.
Yeah, right.
All
it took was for their piano player to get iced in a plane crash.
And the same thing with Genesis when Peter Gabriel left. They auditioned so many says goodbye.
What the hell just happened there?
We have ghosts.
Yeah, right? We're having some technical difficulties here on the show. Video will resume soon. We're going to get this figured out here. What the hell's going on?
Now I'm upside down. Now I'm right side up.
They got full batteries. All right, can you do the same thing for that one?
Close it.
Yep. Close it, then reopen it. Ain't that some shit? And then just hit the big button in the back there.
Is that it?
Yeah. That was weird. They were... Whatever. Of course, this couldn't happen last week closer to Halloween.
Nah, it's just some ghost in the machine.
Well, video is now restored.
Okay. Now, I was saying that Genesis, when Peter Gabriel left, they auditioned God knows how many singers. And playing drums, Phil Collins. He wound up being the guy.
Which is so funny to me, though, because they're two very, very different vocal stylings. That they were just like, oh, I guess we're doing a complete 180 now.
Yeah. Well, it was the writing style that Phil Collins and the band decided to go in a different direction. But when they sang harmonies together on the early albums, you could tell the voices they fit. They sounded good singing harmonies together. But solo-wise, they were completely separate. But it is amazing how bands find replacements in the weirdest places.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they try auditioning all these people, and it's somebody out of nowhere. Okay, 1987. Generating footage for the Rattle and Hum documentary, U2 plays a free Save the Yuppie concert at Justin Herman Plaza in San Francisco. An arrest warrant is issued for Bono after he spray paints "Rock and Roll Stops Traffic" on a fountain sculpture.
See what I mean? He was a rebel without a clue. Rebel without a cause.
Yep.
Huh. I never saw Rattle and Hum. I've always wanted to. I'm not a giant U2 fan. I do like the radio singles and the hits. Like I think they write some really cool songs, and the Edge is able to make really cool like soundscapes, like guitar playing wise. But I never like dove into them. But I've always wanted to see Rattle and Hum.
I'm a kind of a fan of their early stuff. It was more raw.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I really liked it. I remember when they first came out.
Back in the day, it was like it got imported here, and it was all like bootleg stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah.
With U2.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of ways to get music.
Yeah.
Like as easy it is now. So it was kind of alternative kind of stuff, and it was like, and you could hear them on the radio, or you see the videos of them live, bootleg copies or whatever.
Yeah.
You could see them. I was like, wow, this is a great band coming. And it was them and the Police. These bands were coming in from Europe, and it was the next wave coming through.
It's crazy to think about it, though, like how the whole the whole tape trading and underground thing like actually helped build these artists. Like stuff like that does not happen today. Like it can happen today.
No, it just goes right out on.
Yeah, exactly. YouTube. And then as fast as it comes in, it goes away, and everyone's already forgotten about it. Moving on here to 1995, there's a big jump here in music history. Sony gets control of the publishing rights to many Beatles songs when Michael Jackson merges his ATV music publishing with Sony Music Publishing in a deal estimated at $600 million. Jackson purchased the Beatles catalog in 1985 for $47.5 million. There was a video I saw on YouTube not long ago where, like, Paul McCartney was talking about Michael Jackson, and like Paul McCartney's like, you should really get into, publishing, and that's where all the money's made. And he says, like, Michael Jackson, he thought he was joking and like nudged him and said, "I'm going to own all your music." And it was like the following week or like the following month or something, Michael Jackson bought the Beatles catalog. This is the most gangster shit I've ever heard of in my entire life.
Yeah, there's different ways to musicians make money. I mean, being paid to perform. Large concert tours make a lot of money, but there's a lot of money that has to be put up front, of course.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of expenses.
Yep.
It's really expensive to go on the road. And also merchandising, as they say.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of money made off of merchandising, T-shirts and other stuff. But the publishing is the big one because there's so many ways that publishing can get you money, not just the music being played on the radio and you getting a couple cents for that. There's, a million radio stations. So all this money starts coming in when your songs start being played.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you realize publishing is the way to go. And they have, commercials and for products and images and things, everything. There's so much money to be made from publishing. And that was a steal.
Yeah.
That was really a steal.
Hey, we're talking the Beatles, arguably like one of the most important bands of all time.
And their music is played so much every day now across the world, that the publishing. And then the new wave, since I think we talked about it before, the new way of doing things is artists will, at this point with YouTube and MP3s and just being, just given away, you copy this, you email to this person. So artists aren't making as much as they used to on their publishing rights. They have to get more creative. And so they don't want to bother with this. So they sell the publishing rights to a company that can then be creative to make money from it. So many people are doing it nowadays. You hear of big artists doing it almost weekly.
Yeah.
And instead of them hustling and their agents or whatever hustling to make money from the publishing rights, they just sell it as a bulk amount, $200 million, $250 million. Here, you take my catalog, you go, I got my $250 million. I'm set for the rest of my life.
Wasn't Fleetwood Mac like $100 million or something?
Yeah.
Not long ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, I don't have to worry about it anymore. I got my money. It goes in the bank. I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm ready for the rest of my life. You worry about it.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll get the rewards.
Yeah.
But you market it.
Yeah, exactly. You take your time and
you do it.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening nowadays, because you have to be inventive, I guess is a good word, to get the money that you used to be able to get, because the only way you could hear a song was being played on the radio.
Yeah, exactly. There wasn't YouTube back then.
No. And so that's where the publishing rights, that's why it's kind of changed.
For reference here, in 1985, $47.5 million is the equivalent to $121 million today. Even with those numbers, I think $121 million is very, very little for the Beatles catalog and everything that they had to offer. Like that's just I mean, I don't know. I guess along with the inflation, like for us, or like the newer generations of, kids or whatever, or young adults, like to me, like 121 million doesn't sound like as crazy. I mean, that's like someone's NFL contract. Like, let's be real. Like 121 million doesn't sound like that much in the grand scheme of things.
And the return on that investment.
Oh, yeah.
How many Beatles songs do you hear in commercials?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine you say, sure, you can use this song. You got, give me $20 million. You can use this Beatles song in your commercial so you can sell the product.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the money just, there's just so much money.
And doesn't the Beatles catalog also include the Happy Birthday song too? Or something? I'm pretty sure the Beatles own the rights to...
I think that's something... The Beatles have the birthday song themselves.
Okay, yeah.
But I think the song Happy Birthday is something else. I think that's a different setup.
Let's be real. Gene Simmons probably owns the rights to that.
Yeah. But, yeah. But yeah, to play Beatles music or to use it, it's used everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so you get a return on that investment.
Right away.
Right away. I don't think anybody's going to be selling that to a third party. They're going to keep it.
Yeah, they're going to keep that. That's that's a national treasure.
Yeah. Okay, 2002. God, was that long ago?
Yeah.
8 Mile, a semi-biographical look at Eminem's early days as a struggling rapper in Detroit, opens in theaters. The film is a critical and commercial success, and Eminem's Lose Yourself becomes the first rap song to win the Oscar for Best Original Song.
Now, have you seen 8 Mile before, right, or no?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've it's funny because 8 Mile is like the original biopic, if you will. And I loved 8 Mile. I thought it was awesome. I still love it to this day. It's kind of funny how I just looked it up. The gross revenue from that movie was $242 million. So put that into perspective based on the Beatles catalog.
Yeah. Well, I remember when that movie first came out, they were advertising for it. I remember people looked at it like, oh, this movie's not going to be any good. It's about rap and this white guy, and how's this going to, and it wound up like, wow.
Yeah.
It took it mainstream.
Yes, it did. If he wasn't already a household name by 2002, he was definitely a household name after that movie came out. That just went to such a wide audience. Funny too, I'm looking at it. The budget for 8 Mile was $41 million. They grossed $200 million.
And having a rap song win the Oscar for Best Original Song.
Yeah.
That's just legitimized everything.
Oh yeah.
Legitimized it.
And the track listing on the soundtrack's actually really good too. It's a very good compilation, and you don't even have to just like the movie in order to like the soundtrack. But obviously Lose Yourself was the huge thing behind it. But yeah, it's just crazy. I remember when that came out, and I remember it being like, oh my God, like Eminem made it. That's funny. Well, speaking of making it, actually that doesn't work. But I thought of an interesting topic, and this is how much planning goes into these episodes. Michael was coming over today to record. We had nothing planned, nothing, anything. So even with Steve not here, the spirit of the show is still the same that it's always been. Extremely last minute and half-cocked informative reviews or, opinions. So the idea was to think of the most iconic instruments of all time. Now, I'm just going to get it out of the way very, very fast. Eddie Van Halen's Frankenstein. Super iconic guitar. Featured on every Van Halen album. At one point or another, it's been on every single album. Made out of just basically junk parts. Yeah. The body came from Boogie Bodies, who was owned by Wayne Charvel. It was a second, so it had like a knot in the wood. So the body was $50. The neck was $80, and he got a pickup out of a old ES 335 he had. And the rest is history. Yeah. Put a paint job on it, and then that was it.
He soldered it all different.
Yeah, and from what I understand is he had multiple like Strats and everything, but he knew nothing about wiring any of it. So he thought, okay, I have a positive, a negative, and a ground, so just solder it and hey, I got sound. Yeah. And then that was it. But yeah, I wanted to get that one out of the way quick because obviously I couldn't have a conversation without that coming up.
He wasn't Tom Schultz with an MIT degree from...
Yeah, exactly.
With an MIT degree creating all those sounds for Boston.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how he made the whole first Boston album, because he held his engineering and technical knowledge from MIT. Eddie Van Halen just did it kind of.
Yeah, just throw it together. That's so funny. And that Tom Shultz, the stuff that he's created, he doesn't get nearly enough recognition as he should.
Yeah, he changed electronic.
Oh yeah,
how music was delivered. Because it's a tangent, but just when the first Boston album came out, it was like, wow, how good can music sound on vinyl on this? It's like, wow, the sound of this album is incredible.
Yeah,
and it just blew everybody away, and it started that path to making things sound better.
Yeah,
you could hear everything, and hear the singers and the guitars and the hands moving on the strings, and even the picking. It's like, wow, I could never hear this stuff before.
And the invention of the Rockman. And, for it being like a dumb, like headphone amp thing, from what I've heard, it had very, very good like tones you can get out of it. Yeah. And it didn't stop at just like the headphone thing either. Def Leppard used that on Hysteria. It's all over that album. And that's one of the biggest albums of all time. Just they used a headphone amp because it sounded that good.
They came out when I played live in the 80s. We had no amps on stage. I went through direct to the PA, came back through monitors. Our guitar player had two Rockmans, one set to clean and one set to dirty, and he had a foot switch to switch between them. That's all he had. He had no amp on stage, and he would come back through the monitor.
Yeah.
The bass player had a bass Rockman back there also.
Oh, okay.
Also, so he had a bass Rockman.
Yeah.
And the drummer had electronic drums, Simmons drums, so we had no sound coming off the stage. And the sound man just loved it because he could control everything out front.
Oh yeah.
So there was no stage volume. He had side fill monitors, and it sounded like a stereo system.
Yeah.
And
everything's perfect.
Yeah, it's total control. And yeah, Tom Schultz came out with so many products from that. Yeah. Actual heads, guitar amp heads that you could use to get that sound. And it kind of all started by just putting a master volume on a Marshall amp.
Yeah.
So you didn't have to turn. You could overdrive the input without having to turn it up to 10 or 11. You didn't have to turn it all the way up. You could have it turned all the way up, but the master volume all the way down, and just turn it up a little bit, and you'd have the distorted sound without it being so loud.
Well, even going back to the Van Halen thing, he used the Variac variable transformer, right, instead of getting an amp modded with a master volume. I mean, nowadays it's like, oh, well, you have a master volume. You have a master volume for each channel now.
Yeah.
But it's funny, like, drawing the comparison between the two. Like, you have one guy that's like super like knowledgeable and like an innovator and like able to do all this crazy shit. And then you got this other guy that's just doing it like the equivalent of like a caveman.
He's making it up as he goes along.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, hey, that works. I'll do that.
That's so funny. So what do you got on your list?
Okay. I have guitars, bass, drums, keyboards. I have all kinds of stuff. A guitar that I really think is iconic is Peter Frampton's Black Les Paul with the 3 pickups that you see on the cover of Frampton Comes Alive.
See, I was going to say that one, but I knew you were going to, so I left that one out.
Yeah. He still has that guitar.
Yeah.
It actually got lost and it got returned to him.
Really?
Yeah. And that was him and that guitar. I mean, he wasn't playing anything else.
So what is that? Is that it's a 70s Les Paul, right? Or
I do believe it is the 70s, yes.
Let me look this up here. Oh, wait. The Peter Frampton Phoenix is a 1954.
Oh,
It's a 54 Les Paul Custom.
wow.
Yeah, because it was on the cover of Frampton Comes Alive in 76.
Okay.
But yeah, so that guitar at that point was already over 20 years old. That was basically a vintage guitar then. Damn. We're talking, at this point in time, a 70-year-old instrument.
Yeah, he got it back. It got lost somehow and being shipped or something in a plane crash or some odd story, but it got returned to him and he still has it.
That's crazy. Yeah. But yeah, that I've always liked the look of a Les Paul. Mm-hmm. I've always liked I've always liked Peter Frampton's 3 pickup Les Paul.
Yeah.
I mean, because, like being a kid, like looking at these things, like obviously more is more. And it's like, well, it's got 3 pickups, so it must be better.
Yeah. The guitar player in the band I was in at the time went out and got one. Guitar players were buying them.
Yeah.
Because it was that popular.
Well, if you out there listening would like to own one, you can find it over on Gibson's website for $7,000.
There you go.
Staying in the Les Paul route here, and actually a similar story of a guitar getting missed or missing and refining it is the guitar known as the Grail, owned by Zakk Wylde. That is the iconic Les Paul cream colored with the bullseye, the black bullseye graphic on it. And if I'm reading correctly here, let's see. The Grail is a 1978 Les Paul Custom. What made the story behind it is actually funny. So he gets the opportunity and the audition to play with Ozzy Osbourne, and when he goes to the audition, at this point it's just a regular Les Paul Custom, looked completely stock, but that guitar is iconic because of Randy Rhoads, the original Ozzy guitar player. So he's like, hey, I got this photo shoot coming up, with Ozzy, whatever. I gotta get it painted. He sends it to a painter. He wants it to be the Alfred Hitchcock beginning of Vertigo. Mm-hmm. That's what it originally was supposed to be. And when he showed up, that is the one that he got. Personally, I think he made that. Actually, I believe this might even be the picture. And I think he made the right choice. He was just kind of like, hey, well, now I have it, and that's it. But yeah, so it's a Gibson Les Paul Custom. It's got EMGs in it, and it's one of my favorite Les Pauls. I'm not a giant guy about signature models and stuff like that, but this one, like when I first started playing guitar and everything, wanting to be like Zakk Wylde, that was one of the only signature models that I would actually want to get. And if you would like to find one, let's see here. If you would like to find yourself a Zakk Wylde Les Paul Custom, good luck, first off. And second off, be ready to drop $1,000 on a Epiphone or $10,000 for Gibson Custom Shop. Well worth your money.
Okay, as keyboards, Keith Emerson's Modular Moog synthesizer.
Okay.
If you take a look and you find a picture of Keith Emerson playing live, you will always see this giant thing behind him, the Modular Moog with all the wires. was the first one of its kind that came out of a lab, and they put it on stage, and it had a detachable keyboard.
Okay.
And,
this right here.
Yep.
You know, it's funny. I've seen the pictures of Keith Emerson, and I've seen this before. I had no idea what it actually was. I was just like, oh my God. Like, yeah. I originally thought it was just like for show.
No,
but that's part of the keyboard. That's the entire thing. That's how you make
the sounds. You have to patch one has the oscillators, then the filters, and the volume, and the ring modulators. All the different parts of a synth sound that come together.
Yeah.
Are all those different modules all put together. And he was the first one ever to take it out on the road and have the keyboard.
Yeah.
And it also had a bar on it, like where you would put your finger on it, it would make a sound, and up and down the bar it would make the pitch go up and down. So he used that as a prop on stage. And but he was the first one to use that on stage like that. And I think one of the major music retailers kind of, the modular synths kind of come back into fashion. They put one together and they offered it for sale. It was like $150,000.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, but if you look at pictures of Keith Emerson,
I want to see if they have. Modular motorcycle helmets. Modular Moog.
Yeah, see, they come out with all the. It's really big now, having all these modules again now.
Yeah.
You can buy them all separately now and put together your own.
Well, that's pretty cool. So if you're looking to put together something similar, or not really similar, I guess just a smaller version, because, technology, of course, has gotten better. You can find them for under $2,000.
Yeah, you can buy all the little pieces and put it all together yourself.
That's so crazy.
But that was very unique and very iconic towards him. He's the only one that had something like that on stage. And
I wonder how it fared in touring.
That was horrible.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
They would have to plug it in 6 hours before the show, so it would warm up enough to be in tune and stay in tune.
That's
wild. Constantly out of tune.
Is he still touring with it to this day?
Well, he's dead. Oh. Keith Emerson's dead. He's gone. He committed suicide. Now, he committed suicide about 10 years ago. No, maybe 5 years ago. Yes, but he was touring with it on his last tour.
Okay.
If you look up Keith Emerson.
Yeah, 2016. 5 years.
Yes, he had a hand injury. I had a problem with his hand, and he became very depressed, and he committed suicide.
Okay.
It's a shame, but there you see him.
Yeah, there he is on his last tour playing it.
It's always there.
That's just crazy. Yeah. It's just a huge piece of
analog.
Yeah.
Equipment, all patched together to make sounds.
It's just crazy. It's kind of funny though, and it just goes to show you that there is no substitution for analog, gear. That in the state of modelers and modulators and computer based software and all this other stuff, there's no substitute.
Yeah. He always had it.
Yeah. It's just crazy. So looks like he's trying to get in touch with Russia or something with it.
Yeah. No, he always had that. No matter he used other things that were more state of the art. He always had a Hammond, of course, a Hammond B3. But he had modern Korg keyboards. He had modern Yamaha keyboards. He always had stuff, but he always had that.
That's crazy.
Always had that behind him. Always had that behind him.
Speaking of innovation and constantly doing new things and pushing boundaries and everything in that wheelhouse, we couldn't have a iconic instrument discussion without bringing up the log. For those of you that don't know, this is basically the first solid body electric guitar built by Les Paul. You know, obviously most known for the Gibson Les Paul. But when he originally tried to do his partnership with Gibson back in the day, this is well before he was, you know, established of who he was. He had basically it was a log. It was, you know, basically 4x4 log with pickups on it and, you know, a bridge, and just had a neck on it, and it was a solid body electric guitar. Very easy to produce, you know, easily made. And Gibson was just like, you know, I'm not going to quote them word for word, but I'm pretty sure they said something along the lines of, what the fuck are you doing with this? So he made detachable wings for it, which is now a common practice in, you know, semi-hollow and, you know, hollow body guitars. This is standard practice now, but this was the precursor to what we know as the Gibson Les Paul. And I don't think we could have a discussion on iconic instruments without bringing that up at least one time. Super, super, super important instrument. The log. Unfortunately, you can't buy one of these.
No.
I mean,
they're in museums.
Yeah.
Also, another innovator, to stick with keyboards, Edgar Winter, his ARP 2600, which was a new, smaller synthesizer that you could use. It still had a separate panel and a separate keyboard. There he is right there.
Yep.
He was the first one to take it and strap it around him and run around the stage playing keyboard and a long cable back to the control panel. And if you want to see something really incredible is if you YouTube back to his appearance. I don't know if it was Don Kirshner's rock concert or the Midnight Special of him doing Frankenstein.
Yeah.
And I mean, the guy played everything. He played saxophone, he played drums, and he had the keyboard. He practically played the whole song by himself. But with Rick Derringer on guitar.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing video of him having the keyboard, the control panel, and then picking up a pair of sticks, playing the timbales, grabbing the saxophone. It's just a really great video, and it's live.
That's crazy.
On the Midnight Special or Don Kirshner's, I forget which one it was, but it's really cool, and he still does it. I mean, there's a video of him doing it. It's probably 10 years old now. The video of him with with Ringo Starr's band.
Okay.
Of him playing it live.
That's cool.
With Rick Derringer on guitar and him playing it live, and it still sounds as good as ever. But he was the first one to strap a keyboard around his neck and run around the stage with it.
That's crazy.
And so it's like he's iconic for that.
Yeah.
And that instrument for taking the ARP 2600 out of the lab and onto the stage.
So he kind of did almost the same thing. It's just his was, I think, a little bit more.
His was smaller.
Yeah, it was a little bit easier to get around.
Yeah.
You didn't need a road crew to get that around.
Yeah, because the ARP 2600 was meant for home or lab use. It was actually it had little latches on it. You fold it up and carry it like a suitcase.
Yeah,
and it was for that kind of. It was portable, but it was never meant to be played on stage like that. And he did that. He took it to that level.
If you are looking for an ARP 2600,
yeah, they started making them again.
Yeah, you can find the software for $149.
They started making the smaller Odyssey again. Korg started making those again. I don't know if you.
Okay, here you go. Here's a legit one.
Yep, original one.
Yeah, completely restored here on Reverb for $11,500 basically.
Yeah,
looks like in good shape. I mean, then again, I've never seen one in person to be able to do it, but yeah.
That one, I don't think he has the keyboard. He doesn't even have the keyboard.
Yeah, so you're talking 11.5, and then I could probably be safe to assume you can't just put any keyboard into it.
No, well, you can. It just has to have the right kind of interface.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but he was the first one to do that.
That's wild. Moving on here to more iconic and innovating things. I couldn't have Eddie Van Halen in this discussion and Zakk Wylde in this discussion without bringing up Randy Rhoads.
I had that on the list.
Which one, though? Did you have the Concorde?
I just had the Flying V. I didn't know which one it was, but he's the one that made the Flying V popularized.
Yes, so
Flying V.
Randy had a couple Vs. The first one was built by Carl Sandoval. It's called the Polka Dot. The Sandoval Polka Dot Flying V. This is the one that if you type in Randy Rhoads on Google, this is the picture that's going to come up. Is this guitar? Is this the one you're talking about, Michael?
No, I was talking about the plain one.
Okay,
you're talking about the polka dot one. I was talking about the regular. I think it was a gold top one.
The Rhoads V. This one.
Yeah.
Well, so what happened? What happened with Randy's thing was he had the Sandoval V, and he then teamed up with Jackson Guitars. Now, with Jackson, he designed the Concorde. The Concorde was, a very angular V, made it look more like basically like a weapon. And Jackson loved it so much that they were going to put it into production. But then they came to the conclusion and basically created the Jackson Rhoads V. The Jackson Rhoads is very similar in body styling, but it is moved, as you can see here, the body was moved down, allowed for better access on the frets, and just all around, just like a super awesome, badass metal looking guitar. And, everyone and their brother, if you're a heavy metal guy, you're going to be playing in Rhoads. It's just the way it is. But the one that I wanted to shed light on was the Concorde, because to just your average music fan or average, guitar connoisseur, if you will, most people wouldn't know the difference between the Rhoads V and the Concorde V. And I think the Concorde V is the one that I feel like is the most iconic, or should be the most iconic. Like this picture here. I'm pretty sure everyone has seen that one.
Yeah.
So what do you got next, Michael?
Well, drums. I'm going to go drums. Okay. John Bonham and Keith Moon. The acrylic drum sets.
Yup.
And also John Bonham with the 26-inch bass drum.
Huge bass drum.
And that's how he got that sound.
Yeah.
And just the acrylic drum set for both of them, and that big bass drum. It was just so iconic at the time. Before that, everybody used these real small bass drums and got a real little tight sound, the bass drum.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden it's just boom, boom. And it just changed. They both together, they changed the sound of a rock drum roll. What a rock drummer sound.
Those were the Vista lights, right? Or acrylolights?
Yes.
They were Ludwig's. Trying to see here if you can even find them online. Oh yeah, Vista Light. Guitar Center, you can find a Vista Light kit for $3,700. Of course, that's just a shell pack, but it's the John Bonham sizes. It's literally called the Ludwig Vista Light Zep 5-piece.
Size of that bass drum.
Oh yeah, huge. Let's see if we can pull up the Massive sizes. Reinforced seam, molded acrylic shell. Obviously we're not drummers, so we don't know anything about
But the 26-inch bass drum, that was the thing. That's how he got that sound, and that's iconic.
And it comes with a superphonic snare too. That's pretty cool. But the when you see an acrylic drum set, especially one that's orange, you know exactly who it is. It's like it's funny because all drums kind of look alike, and there's obviously some variations, but that particular kit, when you see it, 100% what it is and what it's going to sound like.
Yeah. I know Keith Moon used them too, but Keith Moon was more known for his drum set blowing up on stage. Yeah. And breaking Pete Townshend's eardrum. So he became deaf for the rest of his life. But Keith Moon also used the acrylic ones also.
It's just wild. And the fact that, it stands the test of time that you're able to buy one right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's how iconic it was.
Yeah. It's just crazy. Speaking of the test of time, I want to bring up a guitar that looks like it has seen all of time and then came back and then went back again. I want to talk about Willie Nelson's Trigger.
Trigger, yep.
Trigger is, if I recall, I think it's a 1969. Let's see here.
It's a Martin nylon.
Yeah, Narton. Narton. It's a Martin N20. He bought it in 1969 and has literally been on everything that he's done since. You can't picture Willie Nelson without this guitar in his hand, and it has literally been played so much and so hard throughout the years that he literally wore a hole into the face of the guitar, like just full blown a hole. I think a few years back I saw a video on YouTube of them refurbishing this guitar, and it's just crazy. And it's like I said, it's just so iconic because you can't find a picture of Willie Nelson without him holding this guitar. It's become synonymous with him. It's just wild. So yeah, Trigger is a Martin acoustic, an N20. Let's see here. Are you able to find one online? Martin
N20. Yeah, probably. Martin guitars are very expensive because each one is handmade.
Oh yeah.
Right up in Bethlehem, I think it is, right?
Yeah, actually not far from us at all. Well, technically not far. You can find used ones on Reverb. Here's a 1984 Martin N20 for $2,400. So, if you want to get your Willie Nelson on, head on down to reverb.com and go find yourself here we go. 1998 Willie Nelson model, $30,000.
Yep.
Wild. For a nylon acoustic guitar.
Okay. Let's switch to bass guitar, which, of course, Paul McCartney's the Hofner Beatle bass.
Damn it.
The left-handed Hofner Beatle bass. That is,
probably one of the most iconic basses of all time. It's just the Paul,
And being left-handed, too.
Viola bass, right? Yeah. The Paul McCartney Hofner bass. Let's see if we can. It's 1963. 1963 Hofner. this is one of those other things that's completely synonymous with one person.
He still plays it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he still plays it.
It's still played to this day. It's when you think of the Beatles, it's the guitar you think of.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, they played, various Fenders and Rickenbackers and stuff like that. But when you talk about the Beatles, or actually, you know what? We're going to give this a try real quick. We're going to type in the Beatles on Google search, right? And we're going to see how fast it comes up with that bass.
Right there, yeah.
Second row. And then there it is again.
And of course, there's another iconic instrument right there also, which is Ringo's Ludwig drum set with the Beatles logo on the front. Iconic drum set. One tom-tom, one floor tom-tom. I do believe it was black, and one ride cymbal, one crash cymbal, and a hi-hat. That's it.
Yeah.
And that's all he ever played.
Well, that's the thing. He was very simplistic with everything he did, and his drum kit was of no exception. And it was just,
Yep.
It's all he needed.
Yep.
And you would think for a band of the caliber of the Beatles, you'd have some crazy giant kit, and you just didn't need it with that kind of music.
That's what it was.
So right here, 1963 Ludwig Super Classic Ringo Beetle and Black Oyster Pearl on Reverb. You can find it for $45,000. In 2009, they did a reissue of this drum kit, and it was basically the Ringo Starr signature series for $23,000.
So it was Black Pearl. Okay.
Yeah, Black Oyster Pearl.
It's the one he used on the Ed Sullivan Show, I think. Yeah.
Yep. And then going back here to the viola bass, you can find these all over the place.
Yeah.
Epiphone makes them. You can. Let's see. Can you find a Hofner one? Pretty sure they still make them. Hofner for $450. eBay, you can find them. Yeah, that's just crazy. Yeah, but the Ringo Starr kit, I'm actually really surprised at how much that thing's worth. For it being basically just like a run of the mill Ludwig kit that anybody could have bought at that point in time. Another super iconic instrument that you cannot have a conversation about iconic instruments and not have it in here is the Gene Simmons Axe bass.
Yep. Yeah, the old axe.
Yes. I'm trying to see here. I want to get some information about it. The Gene Simmons Axe.
I saw a copy of this on the wall. Well, it wasn't a copy. It was one he actually played at the Hard Rock down in Atlantic City. There was one of these on the wall signed by him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
1979. Oh, hold on. Here we go. According to Steve Carr's first version of the axe shown below was made for Gene in 1978. It was used for a few shows that year, but no photographic evidence exists. So we're just going to say 1978 custom made bass from a luthier here. It was made by Steve Carr, who was Ace Frehley's guitar tech. And I mean, let's be real. When you're growing up, you're gonna start playing music, and you come across Kiss. There's nothing more badass than Gene Simmons carrying around an axe, spitting blood and fire while playing it. I mean, granted, Kiss isn't the most amazing band in the world, but they were extremely iconic and visually pleasing. And Yeah, the Gene Simmons basses are just absolutely crazy. Can you purchase one of these online?
Can you buy these? I guess you can buy copies, I guess, right?
Yeah, Court was making them.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, 2010 Court GS Axe 2, eBay, $2,000. That's the thing. I like to find stuff on Reverb because, like, it's like legit stuff if it's there, and you're not gonna have some cheap Chinese copy or whatever. But yeah, I guess the only way you're gonna get one of these basses is to get one from when Court made them in 2010, or you're going to get a knockoff copy off of Alibaba or DHgate.
As all, back to drums, and Neil Peart's 360-degree DW and Roland V drum kit.
Oh yeah,
that he used.
Snakes and Arrows.
Snakes and Arrows. Yep, the one that depending on what song they played, the drum stage would turn.
Yeah,
the drum riser would turn, and he had the Simmons or the Roland electronic kit, and then turn it around to the DW kit. It was iconic because he was the first one to do it that way. I mean, other drummers had rotating stages before. I mean, Carl Palmer did it with gongs and things, and other drummers have done it. But he did it an entirely new kit. Electronic kit, back to an acoustic kit, back to an electronic. I mean, then he started incorporating them into this kit so he could keep it all in front of him.
Yeah.
But that particular kit was iconic for him and for this, the way it was set up.
It's incredible. And obviously we lost him back a couple years back now. This drum kit now resides at the DW factory. It sits right in their showroom now. And
this one's all DW. Look for the one, see if you can find a picture of the one that he had where it was, the electronic kit was behind him.
Yeah, I think that's this one right here, Michael. No?
No, is that the one with the Rolands?
Yeah, there's Roland pieces right there.
Okay, then that's, yep. Then because he would turn around and just play a whole other kit. Had a Roland bass drum and everything. He'd be playing electronic kit, and then the stage was spinning. He would just turn around and play the acoustic, depending on what song they were playing. Yeah, because a lot of those songs, the newer songs, had the electronic drums on them.
And see, it's so funny that we talked about Ringo Starr earlier, like in such a simplistic kit, and you literally have the polar opposite of that right here with this kit. Unfortunately, you cannot purchase this kit or anything close to it. If you want something similar to this, you're gonna have to piecemeal it. And if I know DW drums like I know DW drums, you're going to be paying a lot of money to recreate this.
Plus, he incorporated all the chimes.
Oh yeah,
and all the different percussion stuff.
All the cymbals,
wood blocks,
everything.
Yeah,
it's just an insane drum kit. I have a bunch of stuff on this list here, but I don't want to get on too crazy of a tangent. So I'm just going to blurt out a few of them that I think deserve some recognition. Jimmy Page is actually on my list twice. Jimmy Page has the number 1 59 Les Paul, the standard that everyone knows. Like when you think of a Les Paul standard, that's the one you think of. And of course the EDS 1275 double neck, Stairway to Heaven guitar. Staying in the Gibson realm, B.B. King's Lucille.
Right. Yes.
But Lucille, I read when I was researching this stuff, Lucille isn't that one guitar. He named all of his guitars Lucille.
Okay.
So Lucille at one point was a Telecaster. At one point it was a Strat. At one point it was a 335, and now it's a 355. Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine has his Arm the Homeless guitar, which is the iconic blue Kramer Super Strat guitar with the hippo stickers on it that says "Arm the Homeless."
Yeah.
Just a super cool instrument. You know, the stuff that he was able to do with it is just incredible. For the last two I have here are super, super iconic. Angus Young with his SG.
Yep. SGs are not as popular.
Yeah.
But he made it popular also kind of in a progressive kind of way. Martin Barr from Jethro Tull also played a Gibson SG.
Oh, okay.
And got incredible sounds out of it, just like that. So it made the SG more popular, especially with AC/DC. Yep.
They're cool guitars.
Yeah.
I mean, they look sinister too. And, you know, it's funny because you have like Tony Iommi from Black Sabbath that played one or still plays one. And, but if the second you think of an SG, you're thinking of Angus Young running around the stage. And the last one to round out my list is the Red Special made by Brian May. We're talking about earlier about homemade guitars and innovations and everything. This guitar was literally made out of a tabletop or it was, like a mantelpiece, and the pickups were hand wound by Brian May and his father. Like it was that there was no, you couldn't get any more homemade than what this guitar was, and all the Queen music that was made from it. I mean, he still has the original. I believe he still plays the original to this day. I mean, we're talking a guitar that has literally stood the test of time and has created some iconic music. And probably one of the most iconic ones on this list, or at least on mine. So what else do you have, Michael?
Bo Diddley's cigar box from Gretsch. And that was something, you see that and you say, oh, Bo Diddley. Stevie Ray Vaughan had his #1 Strat.
You know, I saw that in person.
Yeah, that very iconic guitar. Eric Clapton's Blackie.
Yeah.
Strat again.
Mm-hmm.
Just to see that guitar, you could tell it was from him. Southern rock. I'm going to go Southern rock. Greg Allman's Hammond B3. He always played the Hammond throughout his whole, he'd always be singing, but he'd always be behind his Hammond.
Yeah.
B3. So it was like, he made it iconic because he was always sitting behind it. And all the Allman Brothers songs had Hammond B3 in it because he was always playing it. So it became a part of the Southern rock Allman Brothers band.
Yep.
There it is. Yeah. I think it's in, it might be in the rock. I think it's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I was there. I think it was there. Yeah, but he was always playing it. Buddy Rich's drum set, the one he played, was a Radio King Slingerland White Marine Pearl. Every picture you see of Buddy Rich playing, he is playing that drum kit. And it became him and Gene Krupa being the first, created the modern drum kit, what they call the trap kit.
Okay. Bass
drum, snare, toms, hi-hats, cymbals. That's the trap kit. And Buddy Rich played, followed in the steps of Gene Krupa, and that was his iconic drum set that he always played. When, not many people played drum sets back then.
Yeah.
And he did. Most of the time you had a percussion section. You had a guy playing bass drum and a guy playing snare drum, but actually having a single drummer. And so that was an iconic kit by Buddy Rich. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, if you were to, there is one on Reverb currently for $33,000.
Very, very iconic to see him playing. An iconic instrument that you see is Chris Squire always playing the Rickenbacker bass.
Yeah.
The red Rick, he made that popular, and he always played that. Rick Nielsen for Cheap Trick, the 5-neck guitar.
Oh my God, he has so many iconic guitars.
we opened up for them, and he had 30 guitars backstage, all lined up ready to go. But his 5-neck one was the one that you always see him pictures of him in. When you see that, you say, "Oh, it's Rick Nielsen's guitar." had five necks on it. Couple other ones. Prince's cloud guitar.
Oh yeah, Prince has a couple of them. The Prince cymbal purple guitar too, the one he played at the Super Bowl.
Yes, right. The cymbal,
that one.
But the cloud guitar was a Schecter.
That's crazy.
Some iconic stuff. Let me see. Rick Wakeman and his Mini Moog.
Mm-hmm.
He always has at least 2 Mini Moogs on stage. He's the one that brought the Mini Moog up on stage to play with. I'm trying to think of other keyboard ones I have here. I think that's Keith Emerson's Modular Moog. We had that one. Now here's Springsteen.
Mm-hmm.
Springsteen, you always see him with that Fender guitar, and everybody thinks it's a Telecaster.
It is
but
not.
It's not. It's a
Esquire.
It's an Esquire.
Yep.
Modified to the hill. It's on the cover of Born to Run.
Yep. And I mean, we're talking about iconic instruments. Born to Run is, first off, probably the most American album you could ever find.
Right.
And that guitar is on the cover of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was a Fender Esquire. So I guess that would be an iconic guitar. I think that's about it.
Well, I guess that kind of wraps up this topic then. This one's actually kind of fun. I did like doing this and like researching these guitars and instruments and stuff. It's just neat, and to think of, this is just like at one point these were just normal instruments.
Right.
And sometimes in the case of Eddie Van Halen's Frankenstein or the SG or the Bonham drum kit and the Neil Peart kit, it transcends past the the creator or even the artist playing it, and it becomes its own entity.
Yep.
And it's just crazy. So what do you think? Was there any instruments we did not bring up that we should have? I mean, I think we hit pretty much all of the important ones. Maybe besides like Hendrix's Monterey Strat that he lit on fire. That was a big one. Get at us on our social media accounts. Instagram and Twitter at RATM Podcast. Facebook.com/RATM Podcast. YouTube search Rage Against the Mainstream Podcast. And as always, you can find us on our email, ratmpodcast@gmail.com. But let's get into our personal suggestions for this week. My suggestion for this week is to check out the 2021 single from Black Label Society, from Doom Crew Incorporated. This is going to be the album that's coming out, called Set You Free. I instantly got vibes of, I don't want to say like Ghost, because I don't want to put Zakk Wylde in that realm, but it's definitely more of a modern take on Black Label Society, and the addition of Dario Lorina playing guitar and them two do like a dueling solo type thing towards the end of the song. It's just an incredibly good song. I can't wait to see what else Zakk and the guys in Black Label Society have for us next. So, go check it out. Set You Free, Black Label Society. What do you got, Michael?
I don't know if I've ever mentioned Kansas. Have I ever mentioned Kansas?
Me and you have talked about Kansas. I don't know if you ever suggested them for the show before.
I'm learning a song for this band, and I'm listening to this album. The album's Point of No Return from 1977. It was right after their big Left Overture album, which made them mega stars. And then anytime a band has this mega hit album, the next album was always kind of like kind of a little bit of a letdown. Maybe.
Yeah.
This album, it takes it to a new level of songwriting, and I know there's a couple hits on it, "Dust in the Wind," and you think, oh, it's Dust in the Wind and all, but the musicianship, the music on this album is like, wow, these guys were just so tight, and every other measure's in a different time signature, and they're writing stuff, and it's, even though it's complicated, it's still very melodic, and it's very well written.
Yeah.
And that's, I would, if you're a fan of Kansas, don't forget about this album. And if you want to hear good melodies and some complicated music, but still not too complicated not to listen to, this album is really good.
What's
really
your standout track for this?
It's called Closet Chronicles.
Okay.
It's a song, believe it or not, it's a song about Howard Hughes.
Huh. That's something.
And you didn't realize it until after they say, well, it's a great song. A great instrumental center part. And then you find out later, oh yeah, that song was written about Howard Hughes. And you listen to the words like, oh yeah, it kind of all fits in there. But no, it's really, it's about 6.5 minutes long. But yeah, it's probably the best song on the album.
Awesome. So that's another episode of Raging as a Mainstream Podcast for the books. Once again, if you want to find us, you can get us on our social media accounts. Instagram and Twitter at RATM Podcast. Facebook.com/RATM Podcast. And as always, you can get us on our email, ratmpodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget YouTube. Like, share, subscribe. YouTube search Rage Against the Mainstream Podcast. But until then, this is another episode of Rage Against the Mainstream Podcast for the books. As always, I'm Bill.
And I am Michael.
Have a good night, guys. Thanks for
listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening and watching.